Hello again, it's me, Corinne.
Hi, Corinne.
So I was just doing some casual surveillance.
We know you watch literally everything we do.
And I decided I would call in with my concerns because I care.
You literally call us every day. All the time. Corinne, you're on mute. Corinne, it's the bot. No, actually, it doesn't help to yell. Never mind. We'll come back to you at the end. We'll call you back. Welcome everybody to this roundtable for episode 1, When Laws Give You Lemons. The vision for the show has always been, we want kids to watch this as entertainment, right? That they'll pick it as their entertainment over things on, Disney Plus, YouTube, TikTok, and then they also get the principles with it. And then as they're absorbed into that world and want to take a deeper dive into the principles of content, they can immerse themselves in the books as well. Yeah. So that's a little bit of where we're going.
I'm just such a huge fan of the Magic School Bus. That was my youth. How cool is it? You can travel into somebody's nose microscopically, or you can go to outer space. And so that's kind of the idea where the wheelchair came from. What if this grandma moved in with the family and she had a wheelchair that could take them to wherever us writers wanted to go, right? I have this crazy grandma who is never boring. And I think that was just kind of a fun, root of an idea for me of if the twins are maybe always questioning, is she crazy or is she wise? And maybe she's somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between.
Did you take inspiration from the fact that your grandma randomly travels through space-time?
Yes.
So my mind went to a similar place, but it was a grandpa that had died, and the ghost was coming back to teach the kids and take them on adventures. That was maybe a little too creepy, but a similar kind of thing where it's he could open up this world to them. At one point, Grandma was almost a genie wizard, right?
Yeah, I called it a weenie.
Another part of the universe that we wanted is we just wanted comedic relief. And so we wanted characters that could bring that, because Emily and Ethan need to be able to learn in a way that we don't think they're too silly all the time, right? That we can see that they're smart kids, that they're very curious and all those things. And so we wanted characters that we could fall back to for jokes. And so the entire time, obviously, a lot of kids' entertainment have used things like animal sidekicks for fun. And so that was one of the things, we need an animal sidekick of some kind. So the writers ended up coming up with Derek, a nice version of that, of someone that can do a lot of wild, crazy things.
What were some other Derricks that we came up with before we landed on a raccoon?
Oh, we threw around a lot, right?
We had a bald eagle.
We had a bald eagle. We thought about a bald eagle.
You know how zany bald eagles are.
We thought about frogs. We thought about snakes.
There was a possum or something.
Possum we played around with for a while. We played around even with the basics of a dog or cat or a squirrel. Yeah. We had a squirrel at one point, and squirrels do come up later. And then another character we really wanted to bring in a lot of those jokes was inspired by characters like Ralph from The Simpsons and Seuss from Gravity Falls. And that's where Copernicus came in.
Sorry, Copernicus.
Lemonade this way.
And they can help with the silliness too, just to kind of keep it a light humor, have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. So those are some of the things we want. And then Kelly brought in this really cool idea of having an antagonist, or a bad guy, if you will, with Corinne, that kind of gives it a little bit more drama, right? Rather than just having a world where the government itself is the bad guy all the time or whatever. We wanted there to be a sort of representative of some of these bad ideas, and Corinne ends up being that.
The president, namely me, gets lemonade for free.
So just to kind of recap episode 1, When Laws Give You Lemons, we focus it in on the law, the book by Frederick Bastiat that covers how government is really intended to protect your life, your liberty, and your property. So in the episode, they first go back in time to meet Frederick Bastiat, who wrote the law, and we put him in the middle of a French Revolution. We don't know if that was historically accurate, but we know at the time of the publication of the law, with the date of that and the date of one of the French revolutions, they could have coincided. It was plausible, at least.
He was an elected official, and he would live in the city, and so he was very much in the mix. We don't know to what degree, but he was very much.
But then going to the Wild West from there We thought that was just kind of a really good playground because there's always this sort of theory about freedom of like, what is the most simple form of government? If you have people stranded on an island,
Right.
how do you form a government? Well, you have to elect somebody, right? It's a sheriff, essentially, or some
Kind
sort
of keep the peace.
Kind of keep the peace, yeah.
Here's why I liked that this landed in the Wild Wild West is because in our modern day, you have layers of government, your city and your county and the state and the federal and water districts and sewer districts, and there's just so many laws and regulations. So it's really hard to imagine an environment where the government is small, that it's only focused on these core issues of life, liberty, and property. And so when you're out in the wild, wild west, you have more of this, like you say, like there's just the sheriff, and really all he's trying to do is make sure people don't hurt one another, which is really the whole point of what a government should be doing. When you read the Declaration of Independence in the United States, it's all about securing our existing rights. It's not about the government should give you these benefits and these programs and restrict your businesses in these ways. It's very much this model of you have rights and the government should protect them. And that's kind of period, end of story. And so we kind of see in the island example or in the episode with the Wild Wild West where you can focus just on those core elements, which are the most important.
And one of the things we don't address in there is how they change the law, right? They say, oh, we're going to gather the people up, we're going to get this law changed. Did they go off to like a city council meeting?
Sure.
Did they have just a town vote?
I think it's an empowering message to say, like, if we see a problem, if there's an injustice, there's actually a way that we can go fix it. And rather than twiddling our thumbs or getting angry at home, like, you can put some ideas together and actually go try and, you know, Gandhi talks about this, be the change you wish to see in the world, right? If you think that there's a problem, even if you're a kid, you can go try and figure out how to fix it.
I'm calling town meeting right now. We're going to get the people to change these laws.
So we've been talking about the fact that kids can get involved. The question now is, how can kids get involved? What can kids do to try and change the process? So we brought Kara Birkland, who's a state legislator and elected official. And Kara, thanks for being here, number one. I want to ask you, give me an example. You're involved in a lot of different laws, trying to change different laws. What's an example of one where kids have been involved in the process to try and change the law?
So one example that comes to mind is I heard of some kids that came to a town hall to meet with their House representative and discuss being able to vote on these school board elections. And they went to a town hall and they just came up to a representative and said, hey, I think we should be able to make these decisions. Can you help me draft this? And these high school kids sat down with a senator and a House rep who were like, sure, we'll give it a shot. And they helped draft legislation to allow 16 and up to vote on local school board elections. And I think it's pretty neat that they cared enough. Town halls aren't well attended. So when you have a group of teenagers that show up, I'm like, you better listen to them.
You can make your voice heard too.
Yeah.
I think that's really empowering for a lot of kids who really don't understand how complex the process is and how to get involved. The reality is when you make that connection with an elected official like you, and you have a relationship, all you need is an idea. I can just say, hey, Kara, I've got this idea, what do you think? And as long as you agree, and it's, you know, a good thing and not a bad thing, right? You're in a position where you can go try and help turn that into a law and, you know, hopefully limit the government or maybe repeal a tax or 2 or 10 or something like that. So I think that's an exciting, empowering message, especially because learning about these principles, life, liberty, and property, it's one thing to read them in a book, as you were pointing out, Kara, it's another thing to go try and put them into practice and help teach those principles to other people, even other elected officials as well. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been great.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, Corinne.
Hi. I watched your so-called episode, and I am being painted as quite the Karen. On an unrelated note, may I please speak to your manager?
I am the manager.
Fine. What's wrong with laws that allow those who govern take part in the spoils of the governed?
I think you need to go back and rewatch this episode again.
Oh, on another note, you talk about communism like it's a bad thing.
Do you have any real questions?
Fine, I'll ask a question. You talk about how giving cows or paying taxes is bad. But if it's so bad, then how does the sheriff get paid? Ever think of that?
That's a good point. Obviously, the government's job is to protect our rights, just like the sheriff says in the episode. And that's not something that they can do for free. So there would be a cow or a tax that goes to the government to pay for that service. We just don't get into that in this short episode. That's a discussion for a later day.
But taxes pay for good things too, like schools and orphanages. Do you hate orphans? Because I heard you hate orphans.
Who hurt you? We're not saying to get rid of schools or orphanages, but we are saying that a law that forces people to do nice things should not be a law. Historically, the government is pretty inefficient at providing services like schools or the DMV, the place you go to get your driver's license. We think that these services can be provided better by private businesses. Anything else?
You'll be hearing from me again very soon.
I'm sure.